To begin with, the house was haunted. Built in 1927, the house on 8th Avenue D Street was not curious or remarkable in its characteristics. The only thing that was distinguishable about the house is that it had been built as a boarding house, and as such, it had never been host to a single family. Throughout the 1930s, 40s, and 50s, many lodgers had come and gone through its doors, and almost all of them reported feelings of dread while they were within its walls. The property suffered from an unusual amount of accidents, a few untimely deaths, and in 1961, a grisly murder, after which the house was boarded up and ultimately abandoned to decay. Of course, nobody told my father this when he rented the property in the spring of 1976. For us kids, moving into a boarding house was amazing because you have features and rooms that are in a boarding house that you don't need in a regular house, such as a laundry chute, or a mudroom, or my favorite, the linen closet right across from my bedroom. It was amazing. It has shelves from the floor to the ceiling, and they were so deep that as a kid you could hide behind stuff and people would never find you during a game of hide and seek. And at the top of that closet was the attic hatch, which was a place we were told we could never go. My dad explained that because the house was so old and the ceilings and the walls were made from lath and plaster, if we stepped off of a ceiling joist, we would fall through the ceiling, causing ourselves great injury, and more importantly, costing him a lot of money in repairs. Well, as kids, that summer passed really quickly, as they do when you're really small, and we didn't notice anything strange or unusual about the house. In fact, we played outside till twilight, and then we'd come in and eat and sleep. But as the autumn came upon us and we stayed inside and rotted, that's when the accidents began to happen. At the beginning, they were innocuous. We didn't see anything really in terms of a pattern. There would be the bloody nose, the scraped knee, the really bad bruise. But everything my parents would write off as just being kids will be kids, and there was nothing unusual at all. Then winter fell, and that's when the serious accidents started to happen. Every one of the kids had managed to fall down the grand staircase, in some cases busting out teeth, breaking an arm, breaking a leg. My dad said, if you guys hadn't been horsing around on the stairs, none of this would have happened. Now, I don't dispute that some of it was playing around, but nothing explains how my brother John's hand was broken when the door slammed closed on my bedroom when nobody was there. Now, it would be fair to say that my parents had reached the end of their rope about January after changing bandages and being in the hospital for various children and their injuries, to the point where my mom declared, I need a date, I need to get out of this house, I'm tired of being the nurse and the jailer. My dad complied, and out they went. For the night that my parents left, we decided to play the game of blind man's bluff. If you've never played it, it's really easy. You just get together a bunch of people, you put somebody in the middle of that circle, and you blindfold them. And they are trying to catch you. And you stand out there and you say, here I am, and they lurch over and try and tag you out. Well, for our game, we made my sister Haley into the blind man. We set her in the front room, and we all gathered around the edges of the room, and she started to look around for us. Here I am, here I am. She started to get frustrated because she couldn't catch any one of us. So frustrated that she started to cry. And for some reason, as kids do, we thought that was really funny. We started to taunt her even more. Come on, slowpoke, you can't catch me. And we'd even go up and touch her on the cheek and make her flinch. She got so angry that she went screaming and running across the room in the direction of my brother John, who stepped to the side, and she ran face first into the sharp corner of the fireplace mantel, splitting open her forehead. Now, as all head wounds do, it bled profusely, and there was blood on the wall, blood on the floor. My brother John, being a scout, thought quickly. He grabbed the blindfold off of her head, turned it into a makeshift bandage, and started running across the street to the hospital. As he left, he turned back. He said, you guys better clean all this up before Mom and Dad get home. Well, we ran into the kitchen to get some rags and some paper towels. But when we came back out, all those pools of blood were gone. Whatever was in that house, we woke it up that night. Now, there are many who will theorize about what makes a house, in a word, evil. If you ask my brothers to this very day, they will tell you that that house on 8th Avenue D Street was haunted because of the proximity to the hospital across the street. They believed that the spirits of those who had just departed, who were angry and confused and unwilling to cross over to whatever lies beyond, simply crossed the street. But I know they're wrong. I know the truth, what really happened. You see, for 2 days after the game, the chimney caught fire. And the neighbors reported to my dad that they had seen movement in the windows in the attic, so obviously we were to be blamed. My father went up into the attic and looked around, and then came down in 3 minutes, and he was angry. He said, "Kids, I know you've been up there. I told you never to go up there. If I catch you up again, I will ground you. I'll beat you black and blue. I'm serious. I'm not kidding." And with that pronouncement, he stormed off to go find my mother. When he came downstairs and found my mother in the kitchen, he said, "Mary, I know they've been up there, and this time I have proof." And from his pocket, he produced a handful of bullets and set them on the table. He said, "I found these in the windowsill stacked up in a little pyramid." And then he pulled from his other pocket a stack of cards. He said, "They dropped these when the fire started, obviously." My mother picked up the cards and she looked at them. They weren't playing cards from a regular deck. They weren't face cards. They were actually cards from a game called Lucky Lindy, which was produced to celebrate the flight of Charles Lindbergh from New York to Paris. The problem was the game was printed only once, and that was the year of the flight, 1927. My mother started to have that face of realization when my father looked down at one of the bullets. He said, "You know, these don't fit any gun I own, and they're very, very old." My mother looked back over and said, "John, we are moving now." True to her word and her demand, that next Saturday we were ready to go. But the Friday before the move, I decided it'd be a great idea if I got up into the attic to see if there were any more hidden treasures that I could take with us to our next house. So I got into the closet, climbed up onto the top shelf, and started to push on the hatch. It was heavy. I got it about 1.5 inches up when it slammed closed, and it felt like somebody had to be standing on it. Well, that night, lying in bed, I was too excited about the move to be able to sleep. And as midnight came, and the moonlight came through my windows and just traced the outline of that hatch, I saw it start to move. And I couldn't breathe. My heart stopped, and I could see 2 red eyes looking down from that hatch, staring at me. They were filled with hate and death. I wanted to scream. I even wanted to pull the blankets over my head, but I couldn't. And as I looked up, I could tell, even though I couldn't see it, that it was smiling at me as a gnarled hand came down onto the top shelf. That's when the door to my room swung closed and locked. And I sat there the rest of the night until dawn, listening as it crawled across the ceiling, looking for a way down into my room. Well, the next day we moved. That should be the end of the story, but it isn't. You see, it caught my scent, and it has followed me ever since. I have moved all across the country, and in every home I live in, I can lie awake at night, and I can hear the scuttling through the ceiling. Now, I know that people should try and think about that as, oh, that's the house settling. It's no big deal. I know it's not. I have even traveled all around the world, but it doesn't matter where I go. Within weeks, it finds me like a predator on the hunt. And I've come here tonight to tell you that after all these years, I am tired. I'm going to stop running. And I don't know if it'll be tonight that it comes to take me, maybe tomorrow. But I do know this. I am too tired to be scared any longer. But as I look out through your audience eyes here, I can see that some of you are now afraid of it. And perhaps that's the key to my survival. So tonight, when you are lying in bed, if you hear the ceiling start to creak, I am truly sorry.